you. I'll go ahead and got it up here. You can see the screen, correct?
Yeah, it's correct.
All right, so I did build this presentation to be slightly interactive. It's got a couple questions in it that respond like true or false types of statements. Feel free if you want to engage anyone at all, shoot out a true or false when we get to those sections. I like feedback and I like people to participate and ask questions if you have anything at all. I'll try to get through this in a half hour. Usually this is about a 40-minute presentation, so it'll be interesting to get through. We'll kick it off here. Of course, we love sponsors. Sponsors are great. Do not forget to check out the links from the page, and I'm sure we'll probably have some type of communication after if this is like any other events that I've been to. So look out for that. Today, the presentation will be on essential Microsoft 365 security features that you should be trying to use today if possible. My name is Corinne Bissett. I'm a technologist on the product strategy team at Veeam Software. You can follow me really anywhere. If you look up the term Rin Bytes, it's going to be the same on Twitter, LinkedIn. Everything to do with that is just going to be Rin Bytes. You'll be able to find me in the community. As we go through here, we'll cover a brief overview of kind of the threats that we face today, followed by how you can help protect yourselves when it comes to users and admin types of accounts, follow into protection of mobile devices, then some small tidbits around auditing and logging, and then of course we will try to get through a Q&A at the end. To start off with, there are many threats that face our data from day to day. It's kind of become a even bigger conversation since we moved to this remote worker's life, and having so many different devices, your bring your own device network, making sure you have patches and zero vulnerabilities aren't just within your control, but have to be a lot of training and making sure the devices accessing your network and applications are not compromising you even further. And then lack of knowledge is something that I would say probably our biggest problem. And then the excessive use of privileged accounts. Privileged accounts don't need to be used for everything. And just like you don't want to use your administrator account to log in every day to your email, those are just some of the small tidbits that we're going to be covering today. Now, of course, we know the CIA. If you don't know what the CIA is, it's a great encompassing that you can lock down your data so tightly that no one can access your data, but then that compromises your availability. And you need to find the good balance to make sure that you're not only getting the confidentiality and only who needs access has access to that data, but then maintaining that integrity, that they don't have unexpected altercations. Biggest thing could be like ransomware is a term that we hear time and time again, but we also have that lack of knowledge with some users that like, I bet if I update this is what everyone wants, and now the file's been overwritten and you can't do your job because you have to go solve someone else's problem. Okay, to start off with, the first question is every administrator needs to be a global administrator in order to do their job. And this is one of my favorite statements to start off as a true-false statement, because a lot of times when you get into all of these access and permissions, it's like, oh, you must be a global administrator. Well, it's not really the case. You can have a global administrator account, but you shouldn't be using global administrator accounts for everything. So that one's actually false. There are many different levels of administrator accounts, and you can granularly assign those administrator accounts based on the job of the person that's doing it. So if you have an Exchange administrator, don't make them a global administrator account. And in some cases, giving them a global administrator account won't give them all the permissions they need in order to do their job. It's strictly for administrative purposes. It's not for managing all of these other applications in your infrastructure. And around the best practices when it does come to like global administrator accounts and how you should be using those. You shouldn't have more than 4 administrator or global administrator accounts, including your break glass account. So you should only have about 3 administrators, global administrators, if you have to have global administrators in your organization, and the rest of them should be micromanaged out to what type of permissions that are necessary to do their jobs. And then don't combine your user and your administrator accounts. You shouldn't be using your administrator account to log into your email or access any other day-to-day job other than administrative tasks. Give yourself 2 email addresses. It's very easy to create yourself multiple users and then have an email account and then an administrator account that you log in with. And of course, enforcing a password policy, and it comes to a fine line. Don't enforce a password policy that makes the password so complex that you make it harder for your end users to be able to create secure password or lengths of passwords or even remember passwords. Having a good rotation for how long or how often those passwords need to be changed can be the difference between password 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 exclamation mark and someone using a proper password in their history there. Next is just-in-time access, or sometimes referred to as JIT. Just-in-time access allows you to have regular users in your infrastructure, which then you elevate or give permission, delegate permission to based on an approval system. So it's a check and balance to make sure you're only giving temporary elevation. You can create enameled types of accounts. And then you can also broker the access and removal based on a time period. So you're not just giving out access and then forgetting to revoke that access after a period of time. You can require users to resubmit that they need those different access points. This also allows you to create limited access to Windows and virtual machines, and it's easier to audit and track history of who's been asking for those extra accesses, and maybe it's a conversation as to why this person needs it, and then a reevaluation of if this should be taken under someone else's job set. The next one here is actually conditional access. Conditional access allows you to navigate based off of, say, trusted IP addresses where they're able to log in, save countries, blocked countries, and even devices. If you have something that is, say, jailbroken or has a unsupported application software on a device that are trying to download the application and log into your servers, you can have those type of platforms put into non-compliant lists, meaning that they're not going to be able to log in unless they're running good patches, known devices, and from proper locations. There are even sign-in risk AI generations. These AI generations might be, oh, okay, someone just signed in from the United States, and now 2 hours later, they're signing in from, say, Central China or even anywhere in Asia. You're going to be slightly concerned that someone is able to jump that far across the world in, say, 2 hours. That would indicate a sign-in risk through their AI. And here you can also force the implementation of multi-factor authentication. The multi-factor authentication has its pluses and minuses. It does mean you have to have devices set up in your network to either do application authentication for an additional authentication factor, or make people use their own phones. And then if you do have a problem with ticket or with something breaking on that phone and you're not able to get any more authentication emails, authentication phone calls, text messages, that could create a problem. There are some workarounds where you can exclude people temporarily, which is what I recommend using instead of moving away from multi-factor authentication. But keep in mind that it's a good best practice, if possible, in your organization to move there. Now, I do have a quick demo on conditional access just to see how you can set that up there. This does require an ADP2 or an EMS5 license in your organization in order to use all of the features that are within that application. So let's go ahead and take a look at that. And here we are, and it is configured through the Azure Active Directory Administrative Center. And if we come here, we can go to all of our services. And if you go to all, you need to scroll down to find conditional access, or you can click on security to get that list narrowed down. And if you really like it, you can always start so it's at the top of your list at all times. I recommend starting it if you plan on using it more than just this initial configuration. So we'll go ahead and create a brand new policy here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a policy from a group that I've created that happen to be somewhat high risk people because they are not complete security administrators, but they have application administrative credentials. And this group I've created is assigned as a high risk group in my organization. So I'm going to go ahead and search for risk and at-risk admins and select that within here. You're able to then select whether or not you're just going based off of applications, specific, say, users' actions, or what they have in preview right now is authentication context. We're just going to go with the application apps, and we're going to include all applications in here. Now, it does give you a warning that you might lock yourself out of this policy, but they also here at the bottom have a report only function. This report only function, even if you're 100% sure what you're doing, isn't going to create issues within your organization. I still say do report only, at least for the first couple of weeks, because then you'll generate reports on where this might have been a problem. And it's possible that you just need to push out some training to make sure this isn't a help desk nightmare day when you hit the on button. Now we'll come over to conditions. Now these conditions, as it says here, are going to be conditions to what's defined within the policy. So if you have users that are risky or you have a sign-in risk that you would like to configure here, you're welcome to do it. But we're actually going to work with device platform. And we're going to do this for any device, and it's going to be for Android, iOS, and Windows Phone, because we're just going to hit all of the mobile factors, especially if we're not sure. Most people use mobile applications for those road warriors, people out in the field that need to interface, which we're slowly getting back to. And you also have the option here to get rid of the legacy authentication clients from here, so you can only do it from browser and mobile, which I like to configure. And you have several other options here, or being able to add expressions to properties that get very, very granular. Now we can do the grant and the access controls here. If you want to grant access but require multi-factor authentication, it's as simple as that checkbox and then hit create. Well, I do have to name my property. Let's see here. At risk admin. And we'll hit create. Now, this will start generating reports based on the members that were in that group that try to do logins to different applications that do not have that multi-factor authentication configured in some cases first. But this is a good way to start off your policy. So getting back to summarizing, locking down administrative and user access accounts, limiting your number of global administrators is going to be your number one attack point here. Getting into just-in-time access allows you to delegate when you do need it and then are able to revoke it automatically when they no longer need it for that project in the organization. Multi-factor authentication is pretty much a given in today's world, but be mindful that not everyone understands how to fully leverage their devices in order to do multi-factor authentication, and that might require a little bit of training. Separation of your admins and user accounts. Again, don't use your administrative account to sign into your organization or your email every single day unless you need that administrative access to perform the specific task you're signing in for. And then conditional access is what we just saw. There was a lot more features there than what you saw with just doing it for the mobile devices. And a password policy that doesn't make your people want to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 cat and an exclamation mark, but is secure enough that you're not putting your organization at risk. The next question we're going to address here is that threats cannot be mitigated with a BYOD policy, especially with today's world where we're all working from home. We had to immediately start using our mobile devices. Not everyone organization was able to push out laptops to everyone to start with, so we're using our home desktops for everyone that could. Well, getting to that bit, it's actually false. You're able to use not just a mobile device management, but more specifically, a mobile application management type of configuration, which can help you secure against like not having encrypted devices, as well as jailbroken devices. Jailbroken devices can automatically be excluded, almost like a walled garden type of feature within your applications for access in your organization. So with the mobile device management, you also get that remote device wipe feature. Now this one would be more something that's added into or via Intune in Microsoft. Once you have that device managed by your organization, you're also going to be able to get lost device locations, as well as the walled garden type of feature, even when it comes to Android. So iOS is pretty good about having a walled garden for the most part of what kinds of applications that you can install on that device, but Android kind of opens that up even further. That could put your device at security vulnerability risk. This one could completely narrow down the app restrictions that you would have within your organization. Next is being able to use TPM or the BitLocking feature and your MDM policy. This can all be aggregated and send your BitLocker keys to your Azure AD for safekeeping, because we know a lot of end users may have problems remembering to save to an external device or a flash drive, or put that key somewhere that they even remember where it was before. Having this safe already in the administrator's hand under the Azure Active Directory can help kind of prevent the headaches that happen when the keys are lost, and help preventing your data loss in the end. The next thing that we have here is the Office App Protection. Office App Protection allows you to go in and make sure your emails are always encrypted between two different points, and uses Secure Mail Flow. Secure Mail Flow will automatically scan links and attachments in your organization, then provide advanced tips and reporting so that your administrators know when maybe some type of false or phishing type of attack is coming into your organization, possibly and hopefully even before your end user does. And data loss policies are great to have in place, even if it's just for generic personal information, say social security numbers, credit card numbers, or just personal documents, anything that's been flagged as internal or as high risk for external external forwarding of emails that shouldn't be forwarded. And then enabling OneDrive folder protection allows your users to have a protected folder on their desktop, pictures, and documents directly through OneDrive once they've added it to their machine. This isn't going to solve in all cases, but creates a great endpoint to maybe your 3-2-1 rule that already exists for any type of data protection in your infrastructure. And of course, the mobile application management, which can help include all of this. And alternatives to authentication. So we talked about multi-factor authentication being a good thing to use, but you also have something called app passcodes. App passcodes allows you to do a temporary application password in order to authenticate into, say, an application or some code in some cases. And this will allow you to not just pass the password, but you can immediately revoke something without losing or needing to reset your password for your account. Token authentication allows more of a in place of credentials completely. This token gives you to your authentication server. A lot of times is used either Kerberos or through like an AAD type of navigation. SSO is also a nice implementation into your organization, making sure you don't have to do multiple authentications, remembering multiple passwords to different applications. They're all passed through maybe say Microsoft, which you're able to control the passwords on that. Summarizing that section, it's all about making sure you have MDM or MAM with, say, Intune or the application access and data loss preventions, and making sure that you're using something other than just your plain username and password. Multi-factor authentication and secure email flow is great so that you get notifications before your users know something's coming into your organization. The last section we have here is all about Azure and its log analytics. And they have more than just built-in analytics. They have ways to be able to export that data and collect them into centralized locations. So we have workspaces and then policy managements that can be applied to those workspaces. These workspaces are where you can import multiple Office 365 groups of information so you can kind of aggregate it out into charts and reports depending on what you need. It's all about the data collection into a centralized location, which is going to be through Azure Secure Center. And there are a lot of built-in reports. There's also a lot of customized reports that you're able to complete. And Secure and Compliance Center. The Secure and Compliance Center allow you the Office 365 security reports, which are going to show your security within the applications themselves, not necessarily the individual users. You also have audit logs for search. Your search audit logs are for tasks performed in your organization. So if you do delegate out, say with just-in-time access, the ability to do administrative flows for, say, a project, then you can audit what they actually performed within the organization to make sure there's no problems or they didn't reach beyond what they were supposed to be doing within their project. And then advanced sign-in reports tells you who performed the task in the audit logs. And the Security and Compliance Center. The Security and Compliance Center have a ton of built-in reports, but you're also able to create, say, custom reports and get your compliance score. The great thing about the compliance score is it's not just based off of what someone thinks your organization should be doing, but you can actually customize what reports show up in your compliance score or which ones actually apply to your organizations in order to make sure that you're fully meeting everything that your specific organization should be meeting, whether it's the data loss policy matches and it has malware detection types of settings and configurations. Then we have Microsoft Advanced Threat Protection. This threat protection doesn't just give you a code or signature-based type of protection. It uses machine learning with Fusion in order to detect when something is not acting as it should within your organization. So if you see Rob signs in every day from this specific location, and then all of a sudden there are several other sign-ins from states away from where he should be signed in from, you may get an AI detection saying, oh no, it looks like this abnormal login from Rob is now an issue in your organization. How would you like to handle this? Would you like to lock this account out? Maybe you need to contact him, or maybe there's an email that gets sent out through a webhook to whatever his administrator or his manager is. Security and risk issues are able to be broken down into also trust domains, and those trust domains can have a less of a trigger towards any type of problem. Now, Azure Sentinel is the last one that I have in this section. Azure Sentinel is a great feature. It is a paid feature that does come with a fairly high cost. You do have to pay for the license as well as the storage where all of these logs are aggregated to. But this platform also allows not just Office 365 log aggregation. You can go from AWS, you can do on-prem analytics, you can pull from hundreds of applications across your infrastructure to a centralized location and be able to do pattern recognition of an attack that might be happening across multiple platforms that individually don't seem like they're harming your organization, but when they happen in tandem the way they are, they're recognized as a type of pivoting malicious attack. This third-party integration into protection gives you that centralized work in building out custom dashboards to those types of attacks in the infrastructure. It does have the best results with an EMS5 and then the Microsoft E5 license as well. To summarize, getting into any of the security and compliance centers, making sure you've set up your secure score, and doing anything that has the AI behavioral analytics protection within it is going to set you up to know what's happening in your organizations even before hopefully your users have reported that to you. And that takes us to the key takeaways. It's just-in-time access is something that you're able to do in most organizations. Instead of applying those administrative credentials, that's what I'd recommend. The privilege identity management within that. Enforcing your multi-factor authentication, given that you're able to do that within your organization. Conditional access and your mobile device management or mobile application management, if that's the way you need to go. Having a password policy that doesn't make your users want to change their password to something so simplistic that they are afraid they're not going to be able to remember it if they don't. Making sure you're understanding where your logs are and how to access them so you can use them properly. Did we have any questions?
Sorry, no question right now.
That is all I had for you today. It was a lot of information in a very short period of time. If you do think of anything later, you can always reach out either on Twitter or LinkedIn at RenBytes.